Hey, everybody, welcome back to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting, as well as the publisher at wrong side, Autonomy Global. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, go ahead and do that. We'd love to have you. I don't know where the time has gone, everybody, but we are ending the fourth month of our fifth year of this podcast. This month has been dedicated to safety and standards, sponsored by Viasat. And today we have an incredible guest, Dr. Tim Nohara. He is the president and CEO of Accipiter Radar, joining us today. So we are so thrilled to have you, Tim.
Thank you, Don. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, look, let's frame it up. We've got a video, so let's go ahead and roll that, and then we'll go from there.
Drones and birds can cause massive damage to planes, which can be deadly if pilots don't detect them in time. There is a dire need for reliable, affordable, and flexible detect and alert systems to help keep air travel safe for all of us. Accipiter Radar continues to be a leader in smart surveillance networks with detect and alert capabilities. Accipiter Radar looks to prevent collisions before they happen. We have helped to reduce bird strikes at airports by working with wildlife specialists, airport stakeholders, and regulators. At Accipiter, we are now focused on reducing the risk of drone strikes, as drones are integrated in large numbers into our national airspace, targeting a safer world for everyone. For more information, visit our website at accipiterradar.com.
All right, awesome video. So much going on there. And I know we're going to get into all of this, but before we do, Tim, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself first?
Thanks, Don. I guess first I'm a husband. Wife Janet, 37 years. Pretty proud of that. A father. I have great kids. I have a granddaughter, so I'm a grandfather too. And those are the exciting external parts of the life when my head's not down with the rest of the team here at Accipiter. I'm a Leafs fan, and I suffered last night. So I was named after Tim Horton, Don, literally. So
gotcha. All right, very good.
Yeah, it was so that's sort of me personally, a little bit entrepreneurial by nature. There's a Phoenician background that goes back a long time. As a kid, never sure what it would be. Professional engineer, it's ultimately where I ended up. It was a conflict between the arts or the sciences, but professional engineering. And eventually I ended up here founding Accipiter in 94 and doing the fun stuff that we're doing today.
Well, I'd love to hear that origin story because you founded this company in 94. So what kind of sparked the idea of Accipiter?
I'll take you back. It's interesting times. We're under a Cold War, and when I started my early career at Raytheon, and I was in the advanced systems development group. We were doing space-based, airborne, ground-based naval surveillance systems, radar systems. But the wall came down, which was great news for the world.
Yep.
We hired our first Russian scientist, which was great news for the world. It was 93 maybe. But we were in a depression. The defense industry went into a major depression. So by 94, I still had a secure job, but by 94, the entrepreneurial instincts kicked in, and I thought, it's time to do something in the profession for the homeland rather than for defense and other applications. So it was, how could we bring surveillance know-how to benefit humanity in peace applications, if you will.
Excellent.
That's how we began.
Yeah. So 94 to now, I mean, you've generated so much success along the way. How did you come to build the team and grow it to where it is today? And tell us where it is today.
Sure. Yeah, we've just celebrated our 30th anniversary, so I'll begin there. I think you saw one of the images. We've come a long way. So when I left Raytheon in '94, the obvious start, I brought a team with me. So we're in what was called the Advanced Systems Development Group. And when I left, one by one, that group came here, and they're still here. It's amazing. We're the youngest of that generation, and that was involved in this space. And actually, sadly, last week, Dr. Simon Haken, who was our mentor and who wrote the book on everything in this space, passed, I think it was '94 last week. But when we began, it was continuing defense contracts. So we were a contract surveillance house. So the big, the Lockheeds, the Northrops, the MDAs, it was North American defense contracting. And we would be hired as a chief scientist or engineer on continuing some of the programs that were underway during the Cold War days, some of the surveillance programs. At the same time, though, we had to develop our own technology. So we began right away. And in the late '90s, we invented software definable radar. And these were the early days. So that was a vision we had, that it would be needed for everybody from a drone as first responder user to a port operator to somebody protecting birds in an airport. You can't be an expert military trained user to use this information.
Right.
And then we did the contract R&D work until about 2006. And we made a strategic decision then to get out of the contract R&D business and shut that down. And the reason we did that is we were spending half of our time in-house developing our own technology, and the other half was paying the bills by contracting our services out. But we finally got traction in the homeland. And so it was time to keep all our resources, those valuable resources, in-house. So we shut down the contract R&D business and we developed the product and services business. I think the next major development was in 2004. It was radar networks and radar as a service. So that patent is almost expired. It's still alive, but it's almost done. So we've been an innovation company, and we got into first vessels, pleasure craft. In fact, it's timely today after 9/11. The border became an issue. That's actually when border security started, was after 9/11. And we were that company on the northern border, Canada and the United States, that's got a lot of press today, working with both sides on cross-border maritime security. So tracking the pleasure craft that would be smuggling. We got into birds. In 2004 to 6, some bright scientists at Spawar Systems Center in San Diego heard about what we were doing with small pleasure craft and said, do you think you could track these little things in the air? And they gave us a small little study contract, and we tested it. And so we got into the bird area and did a lot of work then with the FAA and DOD. And then much later on, Dawn, we got into the drone space. And so now that's a key part of where we play.
So I want to go back to the birds just for 1 second. Was this like to prevent bird strikes, at least on the DoD and FAA side, and then for the scientist side in San Diego, was that more a migratory thing, or was that also the bird strike issue?
It was all bird strike issues. So they were supporting. Yeah, so Spawar, which is now in IWC, they were supporting the Navy, who are flying aircraft and hitting birds, and especially single engine aircraft like today's F-35. That becomes a risky proposition.
Oh,
so
100%.
Really the military, yeah, you would know.
Yes.
Yeah. So it began there. It began to help the military, and then it moved to civil. And that's where the FAA came in, and the Miracle on the Hudson was the spotlight on the civil side.
Oh, how so?
Well, when that plane landed in the Hudson, because of a bird strike, migratory birds, when it flew out of LaGuardia, thank God everybody survived.
Right.
Captain Sully grabbed the stick and made an amazing landing on the water there. But that really opened up the world to, the public, if you will, to the bird strike risk. And certainly more recently, with Muan International Airport in Korea, the topic is alive, sadly, in that case. A
Yeah,
lot of
I mean,
souls, a lot of souls.
yes, Tim, and you're right. There's, we've come so far in terms of technology, and then you see things like the Korea aircraft. You see things like what happened in the Washington D.C. area in January, right, between a military helicopter and 67 souls total there. A commercial airliner, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about this and how your products, layers of safety and why you believe that's so important. But all the things you talked about, I mean, the wide ranging applications, they seem to all differ considerably, from birds and bird strikes to vessels in the maritime space, to aircraft, to drones, military, commercial, civilian, all of it, enterprise. What is the common thread that you would say in terms of the problem set that your solutions address for all of those different use cases?
And great question, Don. And we've thought about that deeply in terms of our platform technology that empowers all of those applications. Well, the first thing I would say is we need to know what's going on in our environment, what's going on around us, like in the air, on the water, on the ground. And that's where our safety and security practitioners play, right? They're moving us, humans, typically, through travel, through pleasure, on a boat, but they move us in the world. But the world has some objects in the air, threats. They could be birds, that could be a threat to an aircraft, drones, that could be a threat. Pleasure craft, if it's involved in smuggling in a border application, that could be a threat. Drones smuggling across borders, that could be a threat. So they all involve threats, and that safety and security practitioners are trying to protect us from. And those threats in particular, it's the ones that aren't what I would call cooperative. So there's a language of art we use: cooperative targets and non-cooperative targets. And cooperative targets are the ones that want to tell the safety and security practitioners where they are. So on the waterways, I'm a cargo carrying ship, and I'm required to transmit, to use AIS, a cooperative transmission automatic identification system. And I tell the authorities, the port operators, I'm at this location right now, and this is who I am. In the air, on the air, in the airspace, I'm an aircraft. Let's say I'm a civilian aircraft. I might be broadcasting ADS-B out to tell authorities where I am. So that's cooperative targets. Right. It's the non-cooperative targets, because you know where the cooperatives are. It's the non-cooperative target. So in the airspace, if it's a drone as first responder, a BV loss, the non-cooperative target would be a general aviation aircraft that isn't broadcasting ADS-B out. You can't see it. If it's on the water, it's all the pleasure craft that don't carry AIS. If it's a drone, it's, that could be involved in it as a security threat. It's all the drones that aren't complying with, say, remote ID. So the regulators provide ways for cooperative players to tell us where they are so we can keep them safe. But there's a huge amount of traffic in the air, on the water, on the ground that's non-cooperative, meaning simply that we don't know where they are. And radar is the gold standard for tracking everything. Radar doesn't care if you're broadcasting your location or if you're what we call dark. There's just no RF, no radio frequency, no signals coming out of you. Radar sees cooperative and non-cooperative. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is, so all these applications that we're involved in, they include non-cooperative targets that need surveillance know-how to give our safety and security practitioners the real-time awareness, the historical analytical understanding of traffic patterns so they can make good decisions.
Okay. All right. Very good. Now, first of all, multi-domain. So I love that you're doing that. Not everybody is. And I want to use the Great Lakes as an example of a customer that might be interested in multiple domains at the same time. Let's take, for example, the US Border Patrol. Let's just assume they're securing, along the Great Lakes. You talked about the maritime border there, pleasure craft smuggling things in the water. There might be drones carrying things. Is CBP kind of dealing with all of that at the same time? And if so, how would what you bring to the fight make a difference there?
Yeah. So the short answer to your last question, the second last question, is that of concern to CBP? Yes, all domains, of course. So CBP is a customer. So they definitely are concerned about the maritime piece. We have a 1,200-mile Great Lakes marine border that is undefended. It's just pleasure craft. It's water.
Is that what we're seeing here in this image, Tim? And there's some red
it
flags
is.
too. Yeah.
Yes. And so the Great Lakes is the northern border between the United States and Canada, is from coast to coast. But the Great Lakes section, which is Ontario, south of Ontario, New York State, and Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, on the U.S. side, on the Canadian side, largely Ontario, a bit of Quebec. That's a 1,200-mile unmanned. You can't put border guards in the middle of the water, and people are allowed to go back and forth. It's the beautiful Great Lakes. We fish, we tour, we enjoy it. So yeah, they need to have awareness of the traffic, the activity, but in particular, the suspicious small pleasure craft cross-border activity. Most of the activity is legitimate, and you don't have the resources to go after it, but you've got to be able to mine that data, see it in real time, but mine it. But now we have drones. That's recent. So the drones now are carrying payloads, and they're smuggling as well. So certainly in the rivers of the Great Lakes system, which are narrower, drones are very effective in carrying contraband, guns, drugs, money, back and forth across the border. So they would have a multi-domain. And where we differ, to answer your question on that, is virtually everybody works in one domain. I'm a sensor company. I make a maritime sensor.
Right.
I'm involved in air traffic control or aviation. I make a air traffic sensor. We're all domain by design, sensor agnostic by design. So you're right. Today, most agencies today, Border Patrol is a good example, are now dealing with the multi-domain integration. And that's relatively new.
Well, I want to get into your products now and kind of transition more deeply into that, Tim. But my first question as I'm listening to you is, modular open systems architectures is kind of the buzzword of the day, besides AI, of course. Artificial intelligence is like the buzzword of the day, but MOSA, in terms of not only the DoD, but we're seeing it increasingly also on the commercial side, this idea that a system has to be plug and play, whether you're working with CBP, whether you're working with Department of Interior, whether you're working with even like an enterprise, like just say energy company, as an example. Your solution sets in terms of multi-domain radars, and we're going to get into those right now, are they plug and play with other people's technologies where you can incorporate what they're bringing to the fight into what you're bringing?
Yeah, 100%. We're agnostic by design, and we're also surveillance experts. So sensors are built differently under the hood. They sound the same to the public, even to professionals. They're very different under the hood. And so we understand sensors, and we can compare them, and they all have strengths and weaknesses. And so because we're agnostic, because our platform which integrates and connects it all. The heart of that, the brain of that, is what we call a target information system. Because it connects it all, we never throw sensors away. If you have a sensor and there's a better sensor, we don't say get rid of that sensor. We say, let's add new capability. Let's leverage that infrastructure.
All right, very, very cool. I want to kind of walk through not only your products, but the use cases that apply. And I want to start on that commercial side and talk a little bit about airspace awareness solutions that enhance drone beyond visual line of sight operations, regardless of whether it's for public safety, whether it's for that enterprise customer, or even a customer like CBP flying their own drones. What exactly does Accipiter offer there?
Sure. So the term we use today, it's finally appreciated as smart surveillance networks or smart surveillance solutions. We've been developing that technology for 30 years. And it began with the software definable in the 90s and the radar networks in the early 2000s. And I'm going to hit on the AI because that we store all of the historical information. Those sensors generate, even just ADS-B, they generate a ton of data. And so we mine that data. The target information system you can think of as your brain, and you can think of senses that we have as a human. And those senses that we have, our eyes see differently, our ears sense, hear the environment differently. There's radar sensors, there's cooperative sensors, ADS-B, AIS, there's RF passive sensors for in drone detect. There's all kinds of sensors, acoustics. We bring all of that together, and then we attach a brain to that, and that's the target information system. And so it's able to integrate, fuse, and get better information about those threats, about that a particular user, a practitioner has interest in. And the smart surveillance networks piece of that is about wide area sensors. It's not just a sensor at a facility or a portable sensor, but they could be anywhere. If you go back to your Great Lakes image there, to secure that border, which is in the middle of that Great Lakes, to secure that border, you have to have sensors on both sides of the border in the United States and in Canada. And those sensors have to information share in real time, cross border, because Border Patrol is interested in the boats coming into the United States. RCMP or CBSA, the Canadian agencies, they're interested in the ones coming into Canada, but you need sensors on both sides. So that's the core to our solution set, our product set, is being able to operate as standalone, independent sensors, full solutions. You don't have one, leverage what you have, bring all the AI, the processing, the post-processing, the real-time alerting, the compliance, the analytics, or expand that whole thing to a wide area regional network. You know, in the drone space, we're talking UTMs. That's sort of the future of the industry. And so we've already got the regional networks it deployed, operational, and understanding the quality aspects needed to maintain safety in the airspace.
Well, you raise a great point. I mean, when you think about beyond visual line of sight, you can't do those operations without some kind of UTM or UAS traffic management system along the way, right? And for those that don't know, fun fact, I actually met Tim and some of his teammates in Michigan at the AAIR event that Airspace Link helped to head up. And you were on a panel, Tim. My memory serves, with Michael Helander from Airspace Link, and I believe I forget who the person was, but it was someone from U Avionics, and talking about the system you're setting up there. Of course, you know, there is some cross-border, areas there, right there where the Michigan Central District is located. Tell us, let's talk about UTM, because again, for beyond visual line of sight, for complex operations in general, in the drone space anyway, how do you provide UTM with extra safety layers to maintain the level of safety that, for example, ATM for crewed aircraft is, we expect them to provide.
Sure. And I wonder, Don, if we might, oh, you've already got it. You're already flipping to that trailer.
That's our
You're ahead
magical
of me.
producer Mike in the background.
Look at that.
Yes. He's
Yeah,
amazing.
no. So let me start. Let me build. Let's crawl, walk, run a little bit here,
Yeah, do that.
because surveillance has some complexity. So we'll start simple. And the first approach is, let me just bring surveillance to a location. And so in the example that we're looking at, there's a trailer system that has one of our airspace surveillance radars on it. And it also has ADS-B. So we've got local radar coverage and local ADS-B coverage.
Is that you in the picture, Tim?
I wish I could say I was that age, but it is my son.
Oh, cool. And that's so neat. And then
That's
so this is mobile.
Yeah.
Like, because it's in a trailer, for example, if I'm with local law enforcement or public safety and there's a disaster or there's an incident, I can just drive this thing up and it has your radar, has an
Exactly.
ADS-B track.
And
ADS-B
radar.
And radar. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So, and I'll explain those layers. Let me talk about the technology and the layers. So the problem, the challenge we have is we're used to air traffic control and a safe airspace, and I know we've struggled in the last several months.
Yes.
There's been a lot of midair and ground mishaps, but if anything, that emphasizes the need to maintain a safety posture. And so the first thing, looking at that trailer image, is now I can see with radar all those non-cooperative and cooperative targets. I can see them, and there's separate tracks there. I've got them color-coded just to kind of highlight them. And then I can also see with ADS-B specifically the cooperative ones. And so the tool you're looking at is what we call our COP, or Common Operating Picture. It runs on a browser, runs on anything, and it's integrating and displaying in real time the tracks, the aircraft tracks, either seen by radar or seen by ADS-B. And where ADS-B sees a lot further away, typically, than a portable radar. So there'll be some radar tracks that are only seen by ADS-B, and then there'll be aircraft only seen by ADS-B, and then there'll be aircraft only seen by radar because they're not broadcasting. And you'll see mixes of those in these images. We always have a mix of aircraft, those that are not broadcasting, non-cooperatives, and those that are broadcasting, cooperatives. So we begin with a trailer system, but when we move to UTM, we've got to go now to a wide area network, which is, we're looking at one right now. And so in a wide area network context, this particular example, and this is real data, a real deployed wide area smart surveillance network for BVLOS, we have many radars deployed over a regional area. There's an image of one of those radars in that left panel there. So these are fixed radars, they're not trailers. We build the network just like we build a cellular network. We know we try to forget where the cell towers are, but when we get down to 3 bars or 2 bars or 1 bar on our phone, we start thinking about it, right? When we're in a rural area, it just means I don't have coverage. I don't have good coverage. Same thing with radar. So we deploy a network of radars. We deploy a network of ADS-B sensors. In this example, there's 2 ADS-B sensors. They're maybe 70 miles apart, and they're color-coded, I think, red and blue. And then there's many radars in the example you're looking at. And some of them have overlapping coverage. So you see parallel tracks, like very close to each other. It's the same aircraft. It's just being picked up by multiple radars. Very, very much, Dawn, like this thing is actually talking to cell towers, usually 2 or 3 cell towers, but we're talking over one of them. It's picking the strongest signal automatically because it's cooperative. So in that regional network image that you just saw, we've got places where we only have radar targets. They're dark, they're not broadcasting, only radar can see them. We've got places where we only have where only ADS-B is seeing them, and then we have overlapped areas where many radars are seeing them. That will cause information overload. So the first is the integration. You're seeing it here. We're going to move to what I call the Dune technology, and that's a new innovation, Dawn. And Dune is Data Unification Engine. It's an acronym. We love acronyms. But Dune is developed specifically for UTM applications, and it's operational and it's continuing to be advanced. And what Dune does is Dune integrates and fuses those dissimilar sensors, those different ADS-B sensors or sources, those different overlapping radars, and it integrates them and fuses them so that you have a very simplified display for the air traffic control operator. And I've got to put my glasses on to see your screen. Yep, that's the one. I'm in denial. But I'm pointing out with some arrows there specific targets that are only picked up by radar. They're dark. Specific targets that are picked up by ADS-B or both. And you can see that we're labeling targets based on how they're being seen by different sensors, but there's only one track on the screen for each aircraft. We're simplifying the display. That's what the Dune does, and creates a unified view of what's happening to reduce cognitive overload for users of this system.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be really critical. I mean, the slide you had up with the rainbow of colors where, different things are picking up the same aircraft, that could get very confusing quickly, especially in high stakes environments when things are happening dynamically and you need to be sure the airspace is safe. So I love that you've created Dune and simplified that into like just one common operating picture or COP for everybody. That's really cool. Now, you talked about these wide area networks, and obviously, when you think about UAS traffic management beyond visual line of sight, that's really going to be critical. How do you quality assure this large scale deployment of terrestrial and airspace surveillance, like this one that you've just showed us after it's been deployed and commissioned?
Yeah, you need more innovation. So,
of course,
which we've done. We've developed, and we're continuing to improve this, what we call System Performance Assessment, SPA, another acronym. And
the Dune Spa, the spa on the dunes.
Yeah, this is a problem when you let engineers name things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what we're doing here, that's a great image. That is an automatically calculated quality assurance metric of a radar system that this network is depending on. There's many radars that is depending on. This is one radar that is depending on. And let me frame this by saying that with UAS, we don't have air traffic controllers and crewed pilots in the seat talking to each other, right. Confirming location with ident between a pilot and an air traffic controller. The air traffic controller looking over the shoulder at the STARS display or an air traffic control display and validating that the skin paint from the radar, which is primary, is correlated. It's the same target that the pilot I'm bringing in, and looking out the tower glass and seeing the aircraft and making sure it's appearing on the screen where it ought to. We've got built-in quality assurance in our air traffic management system, and we don't have that in UAS, and we're building that, and we're building it with technology like this SPA. So what it does is that middle area that shows all the blue tracks, you're actually seeing, I think, Highway Patrol doing some surveys. You see, aircraft circular tracks. Those are aircraft tracks over the course of a week. This particular image you're looking. It
looks like a bunch of veins. I mean, all of
it is, and
yeah. So the
so that's
circles are where the aircraft were.
Yeah, all those lines, all the blue lines are, if you will, the trajectories of the aircraft over that 1 week, period. Yeah, and you fill the airspace. Trust me, this is Class G, and people think there's no traffic. There's a ton of traffic.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
And there's pleasure craft, and there's military aircraft that aren't squawking. And we had an experience in DC not that long ago. And then there's ADS-B broadcasting aircraft, of course, that we're picking up. But here's the trick with quality assurance. Each of these, we have the Dune, and the Dune knows which aircraft are cooperative. It knows that. And it knows that this cooperative aircraft, I have its ADS-B contact, and I also have its radar skin paint contact. I have both of them. I've got them together. So the Dune, we can treat each cooperative aircraft that should be seen by the radar. We know what the radar coverage should look like. We know what the probability of detection should be, theoretically. We can use each aircraft, each cooperative aircraft, as a test target, a continuous test target. And what we're doing is we're measuring with code and software algorithms, did we see what we should have seen with those? Did radar see what it should have seen? And we're measuring probabilities, and we're calculating those probabilities automatically, and we're reporting them automatically. And now we can set a baseline, and now we can set health indicators like in a dashboard in a cockpit that say, gee, I don't know what's going on, but I've got a degradation in radar performance. I can do the same thing to ADS-B. I've got a degradation in ADS-B performance. And that's the quality assurance piece that now comes into a health monitoring dashboard that enables the remote pilot or the supervisors or the responsible parties awareness of what's happening.
So what does that mean? Say I see this degradation warning, what do I do about it? Because if I'm seeing perhaps radar is degraded, but there's some other surveillance technology that is not, would I just rely more heavily on that? Is that the point of this?
No, what we do as well. So the point is, it's partially the point, Dawn.
Okay.
If we have redundancy layers, if you will, so if those layers are building redundancy, okay, meaning each sensor does see in this geography the same aircraft, it can see, no problem. I now am aware proactively that I've got a degradation of ADS-B or radar. I can continue to operate. My support team gets a real-time alert that it's operating, but there's just a degradation, and that's how it happens. It's not working as well. And they can go ahead and make that correction and fix it before they've actually had to lose any operational efficiency. That is what happens when you have overlapped. But you do have missions, many, where you don't have surveillance redundancy. And so the mitigation at that point would be, where is the loss of coverage localized, the loss of performance geographically localized, inhibit drone operations in that area until we correct the problem.
Okay. So again, safety month makes sense. It's like, don't fly right now because we don't have eyes in the sky or on the ground or wherever it is in a way sufficient to ensure that this is safety. That's awesome. So Tim, you're doing so much. You kind of alluded to it. We know you're working with CBP, but is industry adopting this multi-layered aviation safety approach? Because I think that's been a concern from the crewed aviation community or general aviation community about drones in general, right? Like, oh, look, you just get a Part 107 license, or in Canada, something, equivalent. We do extensive training. We're very concerned about this. Is industry becoming more professionalized on the drone side, in your opinion, and adopting this multi-layered approach?
Not yet.
Oh, really?
We're interested.
Yeah,
we need to. We need to, and we're interested, but we have to understand, I'm part of this industry, so we have to understand that, again, the industry is in the early years of rollout. So, so the first thing is, the Part 107, the ADS-B only is all that's needed in shielded operations or under certain conditions. Those can be reasonable. But as we learn and as we measure the data, and as we actually understand what's happening in the airspace, and we actually see near misses, close calls, we actually start to learn, because we're using it now and deploying it, that data is important. It teaches us what reality really looks like. And
Well,
so
and not
I would
just those
say,
calls, Tim. We know there, I mean, in California during the wildfire fighting efforts just a couple months ago, there was
yeah,
a drone that I believe hit one of those aircraft. So, this isn't hypothetical even. And that
no,
that image you had that like we talked about looks like veins with all those tracks in
mhm,
one volume of airspace. I mean, that's kind of mind-boggling.
yeah.
So
So
no,
we're raising, Don, we're raising awareness. This show right now with you is a key reason, a key venue. We're raising awareness, and data teaches and really gives us understanding. So, I'm everybody in the industry wants safety, and we believe we have a leading understanding of how to replace those safety layers that we lost without air traffic controllers and without crewed pilots, through AI post-processing quality assurance that involves both primary sensors like radar and secondary sensors like ADS-B, which can be primary under certain conditions. They also need to be quality assured. It's very easy to jam, very, very easy to jam ADS-B. Law enforcement has real concern about that because it's GPS based. The signals giving you that data are hundreds of miles away, more than that.
yeah,
And
well,
so
I was actually
thousands.
I was just on a video yesterday. It was a bunch of lawyers talking about this and jamming, spoofing, all that. None of that's new. I mean, we're
Yeah,
seeing it in Ukraine and Russia, but it happens here every single day in the maritime sector, in crewed aviation,
yeah.
with drones, all of it. But Tim, we are getting super short on time. I knew this would happen because what you're doing so much in terms of safety for this industry, and I want to make sure we cover what's next for you. I know you have something in the works, possibly called AirView. So let's pop that slide up and walk us through what we can expect from Accipiter Radar over the next year.
Sure. And I'm going to sort of really hit high points because of time. I warned you we would go on.
I know, I
So,
know.
so, so it's important we track aircraft, of course, non-cooperatives, non-broadcasting, of course. It's important we do that. It's also important, as you noted with the Palisades fire, that we track drones. And so AirView we're involved in the counter drone area. Again, sensor agnostic, common platform, all the properties apply, but we're introducing a new sensor and subscription service called AirView, and more will come on this in the coming months. So I'm just giving you a sneak preview. But the idea is to make affordable and bring to masses airspace awareness with respect to drones, because they are part of the threat in the airspace. And to fly BVLOS, I want to know where the aircraft are. I also want to know where the drones are. And I would make one point here. Cost is important. In fact, that's what's making it challenging in the UAS industry. Radar is not cheap. If you think about it in that trailer context, one radar, one operator, but neither is the cell towers that I use this on. These aren't cheap, and we don't even talk about that. It's because there's many people sharing the infrastructure, and even in air traffic control radar, I put in a new air traffic control radar. We don't all worry about how we travel because I put in a new air traffic control radar. We count on scale. Lots of people sharing the service cost for the infrastructure. That's my final message. It's exactly that for UAS. We have to think UTM. We have to, it's super, super cheap to add the safety layers if you're looking at the end game, not at the short-term game only.
Great point. I know you guys are doing that in Michigan. Actually, I had a great article on Autonomy Global by Jason Day about kind of drones as a service, where he talked about this idea of let's share the cost of infrastructure in a community. And I think they're launching that in Austin, where he is. That was one of our it's still to this day one of our more popular articles. So you're obviously hitting on something that people are very interested in, because you're right. The cost of this, not one company, not one city can bear it. But if people pitch in and they all benefit from it, that's how I think this is going to work. It's going to be definitely a community effort. Same, all the different layers of safety. But Tim, we are like at time here. I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to close out, to tell people how they can learn more about Accipiter Radar and where they might be able to reach you.
Thank you, Don. And first, let me say thank you. It's been a great opportunity to chat about this safety issue. I appreciate it. Website for sure. You can reach out to me at nohara@accipiterradar.com or info@accipiterradar.com. It'll get to me. We'd love to be part of helping the community and the industry keep our airways safe, and we believe we can do that in a very collaborative, agnostic, friendly, leveraged way.
Absolutely. Are there any upcoming events where people can meet your team or you in person, Tim?
Yeah, we have team members at Exponential, at least a couple. In May, on the aviation side, there's a SWIFT conference in my backyard in Niagara Falls. I think that's in August. There's Marine Security West. I know we have representation at. I'm not sure where that is. There's several in the near term over the next couple months.
All right, well, good. As long as they're following you, maybe on your website or LinkedIn, as well as Accipiter Radar, and now you have his email as well. So I look forward to seeing your team on the ground at Expo in Houston in a couple weeks. Looking forward to that. But in the meantime, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you, Tim, for everything you're doing for this industry to keep us safe. Really appreciate you. This was an awesome kind of around the world of everything you're bringing to the table. You and your team there at Accipiter. Thank you so much. That's all she wrote, everybody. We are out here.